I'm laughing because as you get older, you begin to feel you just have to tell the truth, right? Well, it's time. It's time for the truth. All of my life, I've had a connection with the Jewish people. I may have told already that when I was a toddler, my grandmother took me to the neighborhood grocery store. And typically in black communities, they were run by Jewish people, owned too, probably owned by Jewish people. And he heard me as I was speaking, and he asked my grandmother, who has taught this child to speak this Jewish language? It might have been Yiddish. I don't know what I was speaking. And my grandmother said, oh, wait a minute. We thought she was just babbling. He said, this child isn't babbling. She's talking. She's talking and I can understand her. And from there, of course, it became the story that was always told. As you can see, I'm wearing the Star of David in garnet. My grandmother had this all of her life, as far as I could see, and now I have it. I'm very happy about that. I called her Baba. I've now found out that, of course, is a name of distinction for elder people in the Middle East and in Africa. But it's also, strangely enough, a town, Buba, that was a location meant for and preserved for black Hebrews and Israelites who were the original people. Now, when you hear people talk about the chosen ones, we always drop our heads and say, well, it can't be us because look how hard we've struggled. And of course, the Ashkenazi Jews are very happy to point out to you that they are the chosen people, that they suffered throughout Europe. Well, here's the story. With all that I have learned through dreams, visions, and visitations, which have affected my family since the mid-1800s, I have learned that the people in the land of Judah were royalty. They were given the tools and the wisdom by the Elohim. Now, you can say what you want to say about the Elohim. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to whatever. But according to ancient people, they were the ones who came from the sky and landed and taught. They were the knowledgeable ones. Now, maybe they just knew how to fly. Maybe they could just pick up and fly. Who knows? I really would. I wasn't there. I'm getting older, but I'm not quite there. Okay. So, at some point, the original black Hebrews and Israelites were sent out, either climate or they had broken some law or commandment and they were pushed out into the world, and they traveled down into Spain. And in Spain, the Inquisition soon caught up with them. And they either were going to become Christians or they were going to, be killed. So some of them did escape and went into Portugal. In Portugal, they were allowed to have positions where they were sellers, pretty much like we see today, people who are selling their wares on the street, vendors. And from there, when that became too much of a problem for the Portuguese, they were shipped, many ships, to West Africa. Now, when it was needed, when the slave trade was needed, what happened was the indigenous Africans and the Portuguese and Islamic traders of human beings got together and put them on ships, and they came over to America. No wonder they didn't want them to speak their language, because if they did, they probably would have been speaking Hebrew. Some of them were even writing in Hebrew in the late 1700s. And the Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews, were not writing in that language until 18-something. Sorry, I don't have all the details, but it's coming out now. It's coming out so fast that you can't even keep it hidden anymore. You have white scholars, white theologians who are getting on YouTube saying, "We're so sorry." Okay, we admit that we had more or less conspired not to give you the information, that we did this for our own power and benefit. And, hey, like we're just sorry. Well, my ancestors weep. They weep for that. That is something that was way, way too long in coming. So now you have people like me and some of you who are descendants of enslaved people. Some of my people were at Mount Vernon with George and Martha Washington, and some of them were in Alabama. The grand toll of the total enslavement and the feeling that we were like less than nothing, while all of the whites were so great, and the Jews, the European Jews, were the chosen ones, left us with nothing. But somehow they couldn't seem to keep us down, because even though we'd just come out of slavery, what were we doing? Building towns. Indeed we were. We were building towns, banks, hospitals. We had doctors. We had every kind of thing you can think. How did that happen from a people that were crushed to the earth with slavery? I know how it happened, because they were the great people. And we're having a grand awakening at this point. So I just want all of you to think about this, because the Ashkenazi Jews came from the Caucasus Mountains. They were Caucasites. I don't know what else to call them. They came in, they saw all of the skills that the black original Hebrews and Israelites had as they moved into Europe. They learned them. They were asked to come into Poland, and they went into Poland, and as you know, they continued their journey, and some of them ended up in Germany. And, well, that's a very unfortunate story of what happened to them. Now, they have been given the rights to go back to Israel. Well, DNA has now proven something. It shows that all of the tribes all throughout Africa that say that they are the missing tribes of Israel have been proven through DNA tests to be with 50%, and I'm sorry I don't know what the material is called, but I'm just going to say markers that would denote their ancient Jewish heritage. Whereas the people who are Ashkenazi Jews, the European Jews that may find themselves in Israel, have like 1% to 2% of this material. So now you've got all these ministers, white ministers, and just everyday white people of conscience who are saying, I've been studying this, and I've been looking at all of this, and you know what? Hey, this was just wrong what we did to you all. This was just wrong. Of course it was wrong. So I'm understanding who I am. Well, I already knew, because through dreams and everything else, I was more or less told who I was. I've seen myself in dreams in ancient, what we would call maybe Northern Africa, Middle Eastern scenarios. I know who I am. I know more than I can tell. And I also know that there's something that came before that. And that is where people like me get their clairvoyance, their clairaudience, and that kind of thing. I want you to think about this. We are the missing tribes. When explorers came to America, they saw indigenous people here. All of them described them as being black or dark brown. So some of us were already there. We're already there. And then we intermarried with each other. Now the trick, though, is that the people who were our enslavers, the people who we had supervision over because we were royals in all of the European countries. all of the royals and many, if not all, of the prominent people of this country, presidents, secretaries of state, all of them looked like me and you. We just weren't told that. They were described as dark or ruddy, or what's another thing that they love to say? I can't think of it right now, but they're terms that they use, and they have changed the meaning of them from the way they were meant to be taken from old dictionaries to, yeah, you guessed it, to something that meant just dark whites. There's no such thing as a dark white. If you have dark white, you got black blood. Bingo. If you have curly hair, well, that comes from Africa. Thus, black blood. There's no other thing you can think about it. I want you to think about this. See if it doesn't start filling in your puzzle in your personal family, because it sure has completely brought mine together. Love you all. Hey, guess what? They can't fool us anymore. It's out. It's out. The puzzle has come together.